Yeah, and we see the same kind of silent revolt that you see in South Africa of people just sort of packing their bags and leaving. It's picked up a lot in the last few years, but something that I think is quite interesting in that regard. So we've got one of the best or the most or best resourced governments in the world here. So we've got the third highest tax revenue to GDP ratio in the world in Namibia. So we've got this staggeringly well-resourced government, and yet we see major issues when it comes to allocating that money back into the economy and back into the kind of services that government conventionally provides in this part of the world. And so, much like I think in South Africa, you've got a government that spends a lot on education. Just the example in Namibia is we spend roughly double the global average on education, about 9% of GDP. And yet our basic educational outcomes are about half of the global average. So basic numeracy and literacy pass rates of kids leaving primary school is about 40%, and the global average is over 80%. So we've got about a quarter of the efficiency in terms of the spend. The same, very similar when it comes to the public healthcare system. Similar when it comes to housing. It's interesting. A stat I saw in South Africa was that for every shack built since majority rule, you've had roughly 10 formal houses built. Well, in Namibia, for every formal house built, there have been 1.1 shacks built. So, we've got this very well-resourced government, but we're not getting that money back to where it needs to go.